Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro Friends. Today on the podcast, this could be one of my favorite subjects to explore at the moment. We are talking about data and the fact that not all data is created equal. This episode is related to, and the data we're referring to in this episode is referring to both data in the coffee industry and in the world in general. Why is this such a big deal right now? For so many reasons. So, there are a lot of people who are touting that I've looked at the data. I know the data. Okay. I used to be a data analyst for IBM. And my boss was an ex-commander of the Navy, the Australian Navy. And he was the best leader I could have ever learnt from. And every time I presented him with any kind of data analysis, he would say to me, how would you rate the quality of the data that you built this analysis off? And I learned very quickly, as annoyed as I was every fucking time he asked that question, data integrity is everything. Because it's the foundation that you're going to build everything on from that moment on. So if you're going to enter a discussion, let's take the cost of coffee as an example. If you're going to enter a discussion on what the cost of coffee is to produce, the quality of the data that you're basing your analysis and your summations on in that discussion are going to determine the quality of that discussion. And the person who has the best information is going to, provided they can present that information well, is going to come out the victor in that discussion. Equally, the person who has the best data integrity when it comes to making business decisions or career decisions is going to come out the victor, hopefully, if they take action and do hard work, etc., etc. But they will come out the victor based on the quality of their data. So right now, when it comes to things like COVID, and when it comes to things like the coffee price crisis, and when it comes to other forms of data, like understanding your profit and loss statement, that's a piece of data. Having access to data that has high levels of integrity will be the difference. It will be the foundational difference in how you fare throughout this crisis. Whether we're talking about the coffee price crisis, whether we're talking about the pandemic, whether we're talking about the global financial collapse that's imminent, whether we're talking about the race issues that are way, way overdue from being addressed. The data that we base everything on is under scrutiny right now. And I want to explore what that really means. Because so many people are telling you that they have seen the data. And they know that X, Y, and Z. I'll give you a fucking fantastic example about somebody who used that example and their unwillingness to do the thing that I suggest that you do anytime next. Anytime somebody says to you, but I've seen the data. And that is question the agenda behind any data that you've been presented. So somebody that I know has just come out of training law enforcement training to be to work for Homeland Security. And she said to me that this COVID thing is rubbish. She said the virus is real, but I've seen classified documents that tell that the media is blowing it way out of proportion, and the numbers that you're being shown are fake. And I was fascinated by this situation. And I said to her, do you think that the people who showed you this information, whether it had classified stamped on it or not, do you think that they have an agenda behind showing you that specific data? And her response was, it's a classified document, it has to be real. But I would say, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, although I do love a good conspiracy theory because I like to dissect them. But one could say that being that she would be somebody that the government would send in to be present in big groups of people, given that she's in law enforcement for Homeland Security, people would say that there's a vested interest in her believing that she's a lot less at risk at getting sick in the middle of a pandemic than may be likely. And because there's an agenda to make her feel safe, one might suggest that there is an agenda for them to lie to her and present fake data. But this person was refusing to even consider the possibility that that could be the case. And I'm sure when I present it to you that way, you may turn around and say either they'd never put fake information on a classified document because, oh, why would they? Or you're going to think, I never thought about it that way. Perhaps they will do that. Because if they tell people in law enforcement, no, this really is as serious as what you might think it is, why would they go into crowds of people and do their job, knowing that they would be taking the virus back home to their families, to other people that they see? That's one situation that if you don't question the agenda behind the data, you may get sideswiped by other people's agendas to influence you. Let's use a more coffee-specific example. Let's talk about cost of production. For the last couple of years on this podcast, we have been trying to find businesses that have a very clear understanding of what their cost of production is. And no matter how many producers I speak to, I am yet to find one producer that can tell me that they unequivocally understand exactly what their cost of production is. Now, that's not to say that this is I'm not sitting here blaming producers or having a go at producers or anything like that. That's not the point of this discussion. What we're talking about here is data integrity. So all of these people who are talking about this is below the cost of production and you're not paying a fair enough price for coffee, all I ask is that when somebody says to you, this is how much it costs to produce a pound of coffee, or this is how much it costs this producer to produce a pound of coffee, ask for the quality of the data. Can you show me how much each of the inputs cost? And listen, it's not important. Okay, let me put it this way. No one is obliged to give you this cost breakdown analysis. But when people are making general sweeping statements that this is how much it costs to produce coffee, and we're paying too much, or we're not paying enough, or any of the other shit that they're touting, when they're speaking in generalized terms, find out what their agenda is. Number one, find out the data integrity, and number two, find out the agenda behind what they're saying and why they're saying it. So is a particular importer trying to mislead you about the cost of production? And would they have a reason for doing that? Whenever you start to question people about the quality of their data, that's when you reveal whether they're talking shit to you or not. Another piece of data that's important for every business owner to have is a cost breakdown analysis. Okay, so if, I keep asking business owners, how much does it cost you to produce a latte? And very few business owners know the answer to that question. When they say to me, I make X percent profit on a latte, and I ask them to break that down for me, that what's that based on? We come to see very quickly that the analysis that they're basing that statement on is flawed. A lot of people decide to go into business because they believe that the data that they've been given is correct. And I get told by people these shocked faces when they say to me, give me a reason not to open a coffee business. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is that it's not very profitable ever now. And if it's going to be profitable, you've got to be doing huge numbers to make any kind of money that makes it worth it. They're like, but my analysis, the research that I've done shows me that, coffee has like 45% profit. And when you start asking people to justify and validate where their data has come from, and you start presenting them with real numbers, you come to learn very quickly that the decisions that they're basing, or the data that they're basing their decisions on, is flawed. And the foundation then leads them on to make very, questionable business decisions based on flawed data. So, knowing that not all data is created equal, your takeaway from this should be two things. First of all, question the integrity of the data. There's not a lot of data out there anymore that you can trust at face value. And that's in coffee and in the world. Our governments don't have very good data collection mechanisms. I can tell you that from being someone who analysed lots and lots of government data. And second, please question the agenda behind how and why the data is being presented to you the way it's being presented to you. Why is a certain news outlet telling you a certain thing and skewing the data one way? Why is a particular political party or business trying to get you to believe the data that they are presenting to you? Why is your boss trying to get you to believe that paying you a certain amount of money is enough? Ask them to validate their data. And if they can't, you go and get the validation that you need around all of the data that you are looking to base your decisions on, whether you're an employee, you're an employer, or just a person operating in life. Please, now more than ever, you cannot trust a lot of the data that you're seeing. I hope this has been helpful. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.